All right. Hey guys. So this past Sunday we had the Lord's Supper, and that got me thinking about, just wine and bread and what that really means and where we've seen that in the life of Christ and in his ministry. And there's a part in John chapter 2 where Jesus, the first, sign, the first miracle that he performs is where he's turning water into wine, right? And so we're going to read John 2, starting in verse 1. And it says, "On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding, and when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, 'They have no wine.' Jesus said to her, 'Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come.' And his mother said to the servants, 'Whatever he says to you, do it.' Now there were a set of 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. Now Jesus said to them, 'Fill the pots with water.' And they filled them up to the brim, and he said to them, 'Draw some out now, and take it to the master of the feast.' And they took it, and when the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it had come from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, 'Every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now.' It says, this is the beginning of signs that Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him." Now, this story is, yes, it's Jesus is at a wedding. And now this is not like a wedding like we see here, where there's like a few people around, like just close friends and family. This is like a Middle Eastern wedding, right? This was probably the whole like town was there. They probably celebrated for about a week. I mean, it is a massive festival. So 6 stone jars of 6 stone water pots with 20 to 30 gallons apiece is quite a bit. That's like what, 120 gallons at the minimum. And so this is it's a monumental feat. It's a huge amount of water that's being turned into wine. It's a huge amount of people who need the wine, and this is the state that Israel is in, right? And when we look at at this wedding, right, and we look at 2 things. One, what are the servants doing? And then what is Jesus doing, right? Jesus, he doesn't look around. He doesn't say, make a statement and say, "Hey guys, I'm going to show you something great. I am now going to turn this water into wine." He doesn't make an announcement of it. And what he's doing is the first miracle that Jesus performs is taking water, which is kind of, it's life-giving, it's nourishing, but he's taking that and he is making it sweet, right? And he's giving something, and over in the Bible, wine is talked about as being good for joy, right? And being good for these like uplifting spirit. And contrast that with Moses, right? Moses' first miracle that he performed with water was turning it into blood, after he had given a demonstration of signs, and after he had given these miracles that were rejected and not accepted, and he poured the water out and it turned into blood. Jesus is not coming in vengeance. Jesus is coming in salvation. And he comes, he turns water into wine, and he does it with just what is available. There's plain, ordinary water jars, right? And he uses that. There's normal servants going about their normal business. He uses that, and he gives them this command of go and fill these pots with water, right? And what they do is they go out and they continue doing what they're there to do. They're not doing anything different. They've just listened to Mary at this point, and they've listened to Jesus. And they say, okay, we're going to go fill these up with water. And they come back and they're filled to the brim, right? But they go and they do it. And they don't know how this is turning into wine. And they don't know that what they're doing, if it's going to have any kind of connection to wine, right? They just know that somebody said, whatever he tells you to do, do it. And then he said, go do it, right? And so when they go and they bring these back, they are living and operating like nothing new, right? And this is how, like, we are supposed to live and share the gospel, right? We're supposed to live our lives just in these normal, everyday like routines, and everything that you do, you just live that life that's sowing the gospel and sowing the word, and living how you know you're called to live, and doing what you know you're supposed to do. And then at some point, God steps in and connects that, because it doesn't matter like how full or how fast these servants brought the jars of water back, right? They still would have been jars of water. It takes God's hand in it to turn it into wine. It takes God's hand in something that you're doing in this ordinary, just mundane day-to-day life. It takes God's hand to connect it and turn it into something that is miraculous. Now, at the same time, right, there's a lot of people who will kind of sit back and not do those things, right? They say, oh, God, I know that you can turn this water into wine. I know that you can fill these jars with water and you can turn them into wine. I know that you have all power, and when this is here and this miracle has been done, I will praise you and glorify you. And they do nothing that they were told to do. And anytime that God is going to bless you, anytime that there's going to be some kind of outpouring, right, there is going to be some kind of command. We see this over and over and over. There's a command, there's a test, there's a trial, there's, you name it. There's stuff that has to happen. There's these, when you've done well in little things, you'll be entrusted with more, right? Does this sound familiar? When you step out, like, faith without works is dead. Like, see, there's this connection between you doing what you're called to do and God connecting and empowering, right? So in this, right, the servants are just doing what they're told to do. They're living an obedient life to Christ. They're following his word and listening to his command and doing it, even though they don't really know what the connection's going to be, right? But then Jesus is sitting there, and he is using what he has, right? He's doing it as a servant himself. He's not drawing attention to himself, but he is calling others to do the work, so that when they come back and his hand is involved, they will know that this was not something fake. That they will know that this was not something that was orchestrated or pre-planned or anything. And when they go to the master of the feast and he tastes the wine, you see this shock and this awe of whoa, this is great. Where did this come from? He doesn't know what's going on, but it says the servants all knew. The servants knew, because they were the ones who did the work. They were the ones who did the fetching. They were the ones who brought the water, brought it in, and then pulled it out, and all of a sudden it was wine. And these are the moments where, when you see a new believer who comes to Christ, who realizes that they've been saved, that there's all of this, emotion that's going on in their lives, and there's this aha moment, right? Where God connects something, where all the work that you've been doing finally pays off, right? That's when you see God's hand in it, and it's because the work that you've been doing that's totally powerless, right? The work that you've been doing that is just like your normal mundane life, totally powerless. There's nothing that you can do to make that water wine. There's nothing that you can do to have a hand in it other than go and get it, or other than go and do what you've been called to do, right? You work and you strive and you labor with people in your life that you're trying to help bring out of a bad situation. You labor with people that need help. You just do the work and keep an open eye and keep moving towards what you know is right in life. You do all of these things in your life that ultimately you have no power over the outcome, but you're doing it and you're weaving it. And then what God is doing is he comes in and he speaks that word of power into their life, into your life, into somebody around you's life, and that aha moment clicks and things come together, and there's this glory and this praise that comes out of seeing the work empowered, seeing what you've done, paying off, seeing God's hand actually come in and make that connection and breathe life into it, right? That might have been a long time in the works, might have been a short time in the works, right? But it's those who have done that labor, who see that change, who have that revelation, those are the ones who see it. Those are the ones who believe it. And then that goes and it goes to the rest of the world. It goes out to all of those that are around, right? And it spreads this gospel message. That's why anything that you do it when you're doing it for God, you do it with all of your strength, because you're called to give wholeheartedly into the things that you've been called into. And that can come in many, many different ways. But whatever you're doing, you do what you know is right, what you've been told through the Bible, having the mind of Christ, and then you just live that, be obedient, and that miracle comes. There's two people in the Bible that I think have the biggest influence in the Old Testament. That's Joseph from Egypt, right? From having the 7 years of feast and famine and ruling over Egypt and giving out the grain, right? Saving all of the people from starvation. And then there's David, the king who united all of Israel together, right? These two people, greatest impact in the Old Testament. Not one miracle performed. Just an obedient life. Just a single obedient life given to God.